fruit and find a seat so we can begin shortly in just about 5 or so minutes. So we'll see you all again shortly. But if you want to go and talk there, like in front of that, then you would use the handheld.
Do I have to do the, last year I had to stand in a box. Do I need to do that again?
I don't think so. Let me double check with Evan.
Goodness.
Hey, Evan. Guy said, does he need to stand anywhere specifically on the stage, or is he good to roam?
Awesome. Okay. Last year I had to stand in a box.
Oh, yeah. And then will you be running the slides? So he can run the slides.
Awesome. I just have one slide, so you just need to click down. Can I test it? Yeah, this is the slide. So you can go from that as fast as possible to this one and leave it on this one, you know what I mean?
You don't want to look at your headset?
No. Do I need to turn this on or is it on?
I can give you the one that I'm going to have.
Perfect. That's even better.
Like that. Hello, hello, hello once again. All right, this is going to be our last 5-minute warning. Imagine the 5-minute warning I gave you earlier was actually the 10-minute warning. So we'll get started in just about 5 minutes. But if I could get all of my friends back there in the back that are chit-chatting to migrate to the front. And if you're standing off to the sides, we have lots of seats up here in the front. It's going to be an amazing presentation. So you do want to have a seat so you can see everything that is going to be happening behind me. So just about 5 or so minutes, and then we are officially begin day 2 of Startup Cincy Week. So please, 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 if you're hanging out in the back, wrap up those conversations and migrate to the front. Thank you. If we could get everyone please to find a seat at this time. We're going to begin in just a few moments, but we want to make sure that everyone is seated before we do start. So if you're standing in the back of the room, please feel free. We have a couple of seats up here. If you're grabbing coffee, wrap that up, and we will begin momentarily. Good morning, everyone. Hold on now. We did this yesterday, and I feel like we need to do it one more time. When I say good morning, you guys are supposed to say good morning back. Let me try that again. Let me walk off the stage. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. You could do better than that. Good morning. There we go. I know Tuesdays are tough, right? Mondays, it's like it's a new week. Tuesday, it's like it's just Tuesday. Wednesday is hump day, but Tuesday is Tuesday. Raise your hand if you had an amazing time yesterday at Startup Cincy Week. There we go. I'm guessing the people who didn't raise their hand, they actually missed yesterday. And tomorrow when I ask that question, everyone's hand is going to go up. But hello and welcome for day 2 of the 8th annual Startup Cincy Week. I already asked you if you had fun yesterday, so I'm not going to read that part of the script. Once again, I'm Kyle Linskeep, and I'm going to be your MC for the morning. We have one day down, but still have plenty of amazing programming lined up for you. As we go through the week, make sure that you are updating your agenda on Hoova so you do not miss out on any of the magic happening here in OTR. So today is going to be yet another great day focused primarily on businesses that are looking to scale in a major way and the folks that invest in them. So kicking things off this morning, let's welcome the Centrifuge team to the stage to talk about all of the amazing things that they have been up to. First though, let me introduce P&G's President of New Business and Centrifuge Board Chair, Mr. Guy Persad. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Awesome. Yeah, we can keep clicking on that. You know when your picture's up on the screen and you're just, I don't want any part of that. Hey, I really appreciate you guys coming today. I know you guys are so busy, so spending time with us is really important. And I got to tell you, I had a little speech prepared, and it totally got blown up because part of my speech was going to be about how we started in 2012 and how Bob McDonald was our chair and Jeff Weidman was our first CEO. And I walked into the hall today, and who's the first person I see? Bob McDonald, who's here to join us, and JB's going to share a couple words about Bob in a second. But I will say that, so speaking about Bob and Jeff when they're right in front of me is a bit of an unnerving experience, but I'm so excited that they're here to be part of this. And I do want to actually share a little bit about our journey, because I do think it's important before we talk about how we're going to move forward looking back to how we started. So it was 2012 that we started as an organization, and we started as an idea and a vision from Bob and Jeff. And the idea and a vision was that if we could create a catalyst for the startup ecosystem in Cincinnati, we could potentially become the fastest growing startup ecosystem in the region. And this has been a vision that we've had for over a decade and that you've all been a part of. And what I wanted to start with is the biggest thank you to everybody, because this has been such a community effort, from universities to financial institutions to big companies, to founders, to the women and men of Centrifuge. Everybody in our greater Cincinnati community, there's no way that we'd be here today if it wasn't for you. So I wanted to start with that, because as we talk about moving forward, and as I introduce JB in a moment, we're going to talk about what's next. But we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. The other thing that I wanted to share is just a quick look back at 2012. So does anybody know what was here in 2012? Parking garage. I mean, we did not have this building. It was a grassy lot. We had some parking spots here. Eventually, the roof caved in, and look at us now. What else happened in 2012? So in 2012, who was the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals? Does anybody remember? Dalton. Does anybody remember the average starting salary of Andy Dalton per year? What was the 2012 salary? What was that? $5? $1,330,000. I won't tell you Joe Burrow's average starting salary, but it's significantly greater than that. Does anybody remember what the #1 hit on the Billboard charts was in 2012? Any guesses? What's that? Well, you've got some great guesses today. Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen. Does anybody remember what the highest grossing movie of 2012 was? The Avengers. #2 was Dark Knight Rises. By the way, the #1 hit song on the Billboard music charts this year was Tipsy by Shabuzi. So we've come a long way, people. We've come a long way. What else? We had our CVG, Cincinnati, Kentucky Airport. Does anybody remember how many carriers we had in 2012? We had 3 carriers. Today we have over 14. And we just added British Airways and Breeze. If you haven't flown Breeze, please try it. It's a good airline. Does anybody remember TQL? TQL had $1 billion in revenue. TQL closed last year at $7 billion in revenue. Now the second largest brokerage and logistics freight company in North America. CVG, by the way, had a $3.5 billion impact on Greater Cincinnati in 2012. CVG now has a $10 billion impact and is the #1 and largest dual hub airport in North America with Amazon Prime and DHL. It's incredible how far we've come in just over a decade as a community. It's incredible when you look back. It seems like just yesterday, but in many ways it seems like forever ago. But what we've been able to do has been phenomenal. And when we set out with this idea, nobody would have thought that we would be where we are today. And so as we think about that, just imagine what's in front of us. Just imagine where we will be standing here 10 years from now. And I'm going to close with just, some of you know, my parents are from a country called Guyana, and they immigrated to Canada, where I was born before I relocated to Cincinnati. And my mom was intent on raising me as a Canadian. And what do Canadians do? They skate. So I learned how to skate at 2. I started playing ice hockey at 5. So how could I not end with an ice hockey story before I close up? So some of you may know the underdog story of the 1980 US men's Olympic ice hockey team. Hands up if you guys know this story. Okay, great. There's some people who don't know it, so this will be good news for you. The story is called Miracle. And I brought the speech that Herb Brooks gave to that team the night that the US team beat Team Russia, which at the time was by far the greatest hockey team in the world. Russia had won 6 previous gold medals, professional players, and the US team was a group of college kids who had just come together for the first time. So please indulge me in one of my favorite speeches of all time, which I promise will only take 30 seconds on my crumpled up note. Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what we have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. If we play them 10 times, they would beat us 9 times. But not tonight. Tonight, we skate with them. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can. Tonight, we are the greatest ice hockey team in the world. You were born to be hockey players, every one of you, and you are meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Now let's go out there and take it. And many people know about this speech from the movie or from the books or from reading about it, but I believe the greatest part of this story was not the speech and not the coach, but it was what happened 6 months earlier when the US team was playing in Europe in an exhibition match. And after that game, where they gave a lackluster performance and weren't giving it their all, Herb Brooks took the team and asked them to do some line drills after the game. Now, any of you who have played ice hockey know that line drills are devastating. They're exhausting. You go from the red line to the blue line, then the red line to the red line, and then back, and you just do it back and forth, and it's terrible. So he had them do this drill. And after each drill, he would ask, "Who do you play for?" And on the first drill, one of the college kids said, "I play for Boston College." Do it again. So they ran the drill again. Then he asked the same question. 1 hour later, at this point, the team's exhausted. Somebody said, "University of Minnesota." Run it again. 2 hours later, team's tired, vomiting on the ice. They've had enough. Another player says, "Wisconsin." Run it again. Maybe we had a Bearcat there, I'm not sure, but they just kept running it. Finally, after 3.5 hours, one of the players, when he said, "Who do you play for?" said, "I play for the United States of America." And he blew the whistle, practice over. Teams went to the dressing room. That was a story about the team. And this is a story about community. Because we will never, and I said this 3.5 years ago, we will never be able to compete with the scale of the markets on the coast or some of the bigger cities in the country. But we will be able to win with the power of community. There's no community that can mobilize like we can. And I've seen it. I've lived in Cincinnati, Europe, China, Latin America. This is my 3rd time back here. And I've seen us mobilize like it's nobody's business. So this is both a thank you from where we've come and an invitation to help us with what's coming in front of us. For the first time, we know what got us here will not get us there. For the first time, we have Centrifuge under one roof, with our nonprofit integrated with our capital arm, with our startup Cincy, and then the whole network led by JB as CEO and Nikki as managing director. It's the first time we've had that. It's going to be our biggest focus ever on high growth founders to create the next P&Gs and Krogers right here in Cincinnati. We have more direct investment. We just launched, a year ago when I was on this stage, our 3rd fund was just an idea. Now our 3rd fund has over 14 companies, with more coming, and more direct capital that's being invested in Cincinnati than we've ever had in our past. So we are just scratching the surface. And as I welcome JB, I'd like you to give a round of applause, not just for JB and Nikki and everything that they and our Centrifuge team have done, but all of the amazing founders we have in our community, all of you for supporting us, and for the tremendous opportunities we have moving forward. So thank you, everybody, and welcome to JB.
Thanks, Guy. I got a little hockey story. I've never played hockey. I tried to play hockey. I broke my ankle. 2 surgeries later. Never going to get on ice again. Tim Messer and Rye and I were reminiscing yesterday morning, and we ran into Jeff Weedman, and we were talking about the first sort of year of Centrifuge at the Sycamore building, one of P&G's buildings, and Tim and Rye were trying to mine Bitcoin back in the day, which I could not tell you what that meant, but they had a lot of computers that were gobbling up energy. A month or so ago, I sent Bob McDonald a note, and I said, I'd love for you to come to our annual meeting and see what sort of you built and what you started. And he had the foresight to put together a task force 12 years ago to find the gaps in the ecosystem. And 12 years later, it's like what we've built is pretty impressive. So I want to give you a round of applause for helping start this. And Jeff as well for being the very first CEO, one of the original OGs. Anyway, I'm just going to give you a little preview of what's coming, and I'm going to hand it over to Nikki. We're going to talk about Centrifuge strategy, our refined vision and focus. You'll hear a lot about that. You're going to hear from, talk about the ecosystem cultivation. Guy just talked about we're trying to become one community. We've got talent and network content coming and a lot of cool things around that. And then I'm going to end it with the Centrifuge Capital update, talk about a lot of the stuff that we're deploying. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Nikki, our Executive Director, to walk us through what we're working on.
Thank you, JB. All right. Thank you all. First, I just have to, again, thank the Centrifuge team, mostly because you may not realize most of this team had different jobs at the start of this year, and those that put forth all of the effort to make this happen and make Startup Cincy Week come to life, this wasn't their day job in January. So they have done a phenomenal job working with the steering committee from across the ecosystem. So yesterday was amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the week brings. But just one more thank you to my team. I am so proud and so grateful to get to work in this building every day with this team. Before I go any further, it's really important to ground us in the vision and mission of Centrifuge. So Dick Williams said yesterday that organizations need to have a North Star or a guiding star and innovate around everything else. And at Centrifuge, our North Star, it's the founders. It's why we are here. We are here to make Cincinnati the best place in the Midwest to launch a high-growth startup. And our mission is equally crucial. We are here to empower entrepreneurs to launch bold, scalable companies and achieve transformational outcomes for this region. And we do that through a variety of programs, resources, and building a vibrant community where entrepreneurship can thrive here in Cincinnati. Our goals at Centrifuge are simple. We want more startups building here in Cincinnati. We want more startups scaling here, increasing revenue, growing their teams, attracting more venture capital here to Cincinnati, all with the goal of creating more successful exits to really pave the way for the future generation of entrepreneurs to launch even more innovative companies in the future and really create that flywheel of recycling the talent and capital back here in Cincinnati and really make this a successful ecosystem for years to come. We do this across our 3 branches of Centrifuge. So we have Centrifuge, Centrifuge Capital, and Startup Cincy. I'm going to talk first about Centrifuge. So Centrifuge is our nonprofit organization that is really focused on helping venture scale potential founders access the resources that they need to grow and achieve transformational outcomes. We do this through a variety of programs that we offer. JB's going to talk in a little bit about the Venture Velocity program that we just completed for the first time. We have some of our cohort participants here in the audience that he'll introduce. Very excited about that, and a lot of the other programs that we do to both cultivate community and provide networking opportunities, but also provide resources and upskilling that founders need at various stages in their journey. This building, This is more than just a co-working and event space. This is the hub of the Startup Cincy community. This is where founders come to connect, to access resources. Many of you that are founders kind of call this home. This is where you're building your businesses. You know, we have many of you here day in and day out. We want this to be even more vibrant. I would love for it to look like it does today and yesterday, all the time. We'll talk in a moment about a talent hub that we're launching. We're really focused on workforce development and making sure that we have the talent here in Cincinnati to support the startups as they scale and grow their businesses here. Centrifuge Capital is the venture arm of the organization, investing in local companies at the pre-seed through Series A stages, as well as in a network of national venture capital funds to really bring that capital back to Cincinnati and invest alongside of us in our local deals. And Startup Cincy, this is really the heart of the Cincinnati ecosystem. It's more than a hashtag or a logo on a t-shirt. This is really about community. It's a coalition of the entrepreneurs and the organizations that support them here in Cincinnati. Centrifuge operates as the convener or the chair of the Startup Cincy ecosystem. You know, it's not just about Centrifuge. As Guy said, this is a community effort. So it's really important that we operate in a coordinated and collaborative way. So we're really focused on kind of being the organization that brings it all together and helps kind of be that hub. So one of the things we've recently done this year to get even more focus and drive real impact in our region is form an advisory panel across some of the Startup Cincy organizations. So leaders of the organizations are convening regularly to assess kind of what we want to accomplish as a region, aligning on common objectives and goals, and finding ways to make it easier for startups to navigate the vast array of resources that we have available to them. So we're really excited about what's coming. We've seen great progress. You know, there are a lot of resources in this ecosystem. It can be really complicated to navigate and find your way through, you know, the various accelerators and opportunities out there. So we want to make it much more user-friendly, much more visible and accessible. So we are really excited to share that one of the things we're about to launch is a Startup Cincy Deal Room platform. This will be a publicly facing platform that will showcase all of the startups that are operating here in Cincinnati. It will give us visibility to the venture capital that they're raising, the jobs that they're creating, and the innovation that's happening within these companies in Cincinnati. It's also going to show you all of the resources that are available to support startups, from our universities to the accelerators and incubators. It's going to show us who are the venture capital providers that are investing here in Cincinnati. It's going to give us visibility and transparency that we've never had, and it's going to allow us to share that information publicly and really showcase what's happening in Cincinnati. Eric Weissman mentioned on stage yesterday that, you know, at the beginning of the Centrifuge days, it was, you know, Cincy Tech had 50 companies and maybe Centrifuge was working with 10, and really trying to assess kind of who is operating in this ecosystem and showcase that. So this is much more than just a tracking tool. You know, we will be using it to measure our impact and really track startups through their journey in the ecosystem. But this is a really important marketing tool for our region. We want to attract more talent, more capital, more startups to grow their businesses here. So a really exciting tool, but this is just the beginning. So the Deal Room platform is one in a suite of tools that we plan to launch over the next year to really create the big front door to the Startup Cincy ecosystem, making it more accessible to entrepreneurs, having a one-stop shop to access all the resources that we have to offer, and a much more self-service, user-friendly type platform where we can bring all of the resources that we have to offer as an ecosystem in one place. So we're excited to share more about these as they come over the next year. As I mentioned, we're really focused on talent. As our startups are growing, they need to build their teams. It's really critical that they're able to hire the right talent at the right time. So we are investing in this at Centrifuge. We just recently brought on Madeline Martini as head of network. If you haven't met her yet, go see her on the 4th floor. She's hosting an amazing talent shop upstairs. She is helping us to build out a much more curated job board and talent network to really match top talent with openings in the startups that are here in Cincinnati and attract other talent from outside the region to come back to Cincinnati or continue to grow their businesses here in Cincinnati. We're also going to learn from our past experience and success with the FinTech Frontier FinTurn program and launch a much larger scale internship program to retain top university talent here in Cincinnati, plug them into the local startups, really giving our startups visibility into the talent that's here in Cincinnati and giving our students opportunity to see the tech opportunities that are right here in Cincinnati. They don't have to leave. They can stay here after graduation. So we're really excited about all of these things and the renewed focus on talent and all that Madeline has brought to the team. So be sure to check out the Talent Shop. We're also working on building out our mentor network. We want to make sure that we have the resources to support the startups in our cohort as well as in our portfolio, whether that be subject matter expertise or industry vertical expertise. It's really critical that we've got a wide array of resources available to support these startups at various stages. We're continuing to offer a lot of the programming we have in the past, but in a much more strategic way, really aimed at those venture scale potential founders, offering the right resources at the right time, both curated upskilling as well as opportunity for community building and networking, bringing female founders together over a supper club to really give them that community where they have support and they have kind of that environment where they can thrive. All right, I've talked a lot. What we're trying to build here is a journey, a better journey through our startup ecosystem. So imagine you're a startup looking for where you might grow your business. You find the Startup Cincy Deal Room platform. You see that there's a vibrant ecosystem here with hundreds of startups growing their business, lots of resources available for you to access. You launch your company here. You immediately plug into the connected front door. You start accessing the resources that are available through this platform. You apply to the accelerators. You get your first round of venture funding. You're connected into the ecosystem and local investors. You're connected to customers. You're now ready to grow your team. You're connected to our talent network, our mentor network, and you are established in this community of entrepreneurs. Guy said it earlier, it's not just about Centrifuge. It's not just about one organization. This is really about the potential we have as an ecosystem and in a community to really come together to unlock opportunity for this entire region, to attract more talent, attract more investment. There is a lot of excitement here in Cincinnati. So I really encourage everyone to engage this week, make introductions, connect, be the mentors, be the investors, really just take advantage of all that we have to offer. And now, I'm going to stop talking finally and turn it back over to JB so he can talk more about how we're supporting early stage founders that are pursuing venture funding and the impact that our investment has had on the region. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Yeah, so we got a lot going on. I think Nikki and I took our roles over earlier this year, and we really put a lot of programs in place and a lot of collaboration. So hopefully you feel and see the impact. I'm going to talk about the capital side and just kind of explain what we've got going on. So over the next several years, we're projected to put about $200 million of capital to work. The way this breaks down is $20 million is going to pre-seed deals. So these are our Venture Velocity program. These are early stage ideas. $70 million is going to go into seed to Series A. These are Cincinnati-based companies. I mean, we haven't had this kind of capital local in a long time, so we feel like it's really going to step change our ecosystem. And $110 million is going to go to fund-to-funds network. I would say our fund-to-funds over the last 10, 12 years has been a very underutilized asset that we've had. And right now, you will see the impact of all that investing that we've done, how it's now pouring back into Cincinnati and has opened up a huge network for us. So that's what we're looking at. This is where I think we're really going to make a big impact. We tell when we make an investment, we say all the time we're not just capital. We feel like capital is sort of the easy piece of the equation. So of course we're going to provide capital. We're going to provide introductions. We're going to provide connect you with other local capital providers. But we're also going to try to tap into customers, right? We have a big customer base of LPs, big cos, mid cos. Madeline's out there, making connections with potential customers, and then talent is a big thing. We focus a lot about talent. Again, like Nikki said, go visit Madeline at the Talent Shop and see what she's up to. But this is internships. This is recruiting founders outside the region and bringing them in here. This is looking for second-time founders that want to start something in Cincinnati. I mean, there's a whole slew of things, and we realize, when a startup gets their first check, the first thing they need to do is hire. Right? So we want to make sure that they're going to hire here in Cincinnati. The thing, recently we just launched our first Venture Velocity program, and I'm really have a passion for this because when Dave Knox and Rob McDonald and I in 2009 launched the Brandery, which was an early stage accelerator back in the day, I got to with the team and I said, I really want to do something like this, but in a bridge version. So Mark Wood, to his credit, he took this on and very quickly launched the Venture Velocity program, which is a cohort-based model. 8 weeks was this first one. The amazing thing about the Velocity program is when you go through the program, you get $100,000. And then after that, we say you have $150,000 if you can match that. So if they can raise $150,000, we'll give them $150,000. So coming out of the program, they can have $400,000. At this pre-seed level is a lot of money. And hopefully that'll get them to the next level. So we're really excited about this. This is part of the $20 million of the pre-seed that I was talking about earlier. It's going to be put to work. Here's just some of the numbers of our first cohort that was put together, I will say very quickly. We had 97 applications, 17 interviews, in-person interviews, and we accepted 5. A lot of the ones that did not make it through this round, we're still working with them to get them ready for the next round, or we've also guided them to Main Street Ventures or UC Venture Lab for other resources in the community just to get them to the next area. So we have a big pipeline, a lot of interesting companies that want to go through the program. So this is very exciting to see. Here's a little video of them.
I'm Cameron Seabrook, a software engineer and entrepreneur. And through advanced Web4 technology, Obey brings a simple claim process to everyday insurers.
I am Justin Fields, an experienced mechanic appraiser with a background in psychology. We connect claimants, insurers, and repair shops in one platform by analyzing, estimating, and communicating the whole life cycle of a claim.
We're focused on closing our pre-seed round. With the funds from that round, we're going to build our machine learning models and execute for next hail season to show and prove out, hey, we have a better process for claims. From there, we plan to continue to grow and even go global, changing the way that claims are processed across the entire world.
Hi, I'm Russ Hamer, co-founder at Lyceum AI. Hi, I'm Glenn Platt, co-founder for Lyceum AI. We're launching our products basically now. And so we're running betas this fall. We're really excited about that. We've got a lot of schools signed up, and we'll be moving into sales and doing sort of full launch in the coming academic year. So we're excited about the progress that we've made. We're excited about getting our product hands up to teachers and students.
I'm Nicole Armstrong. I'm the CEO and founder of Eloquate. Started the organization in 2018 as a People's Liberty Hail Fellow, really introduced the first certification for workplace equity in the nation, and have since gone on to develop a platform that leverages everything that we've learned to help HR leaders build workplaces that work for everyone.
My name is Chris Lee, co-founder and the CEO of AirTruck Robotics.
And I'm John Taylor, co-founder of AirTruck Robotics.
We are the robotics company. We're making autonomous robot to enhance safety and efficiency of airport ground operation. We are currently going through the pilot program where we demonstrate our robots in the real airfield environment next to the aircraft.
My name is Sherrod Holmes. I'm the founder of Home. We're building a platform that makes it super easy for creative professionals and solopreneurs to establish their brand online to make growing their business a lot more efficient. What's next is we are getting ready to onboard users right now. Developers are working hard. We just onboarded a front-end engineer to help with that. So yeah, we're just getting out in the position to be able to deliver this solution and this experience to local creative solopreneurs and those across the US as well.
So if I can get the VVP crew to stand up, somewhere in the audience here. Congratulations. Yeah, it was a great program. So over the next 4 years, we're going to have 50 companies go through the Venture Velocity program. And this is going to require a lot of community effort. I mean, Mark's done a great job building the content, but we rely on a lot of partners to come in and deliver some content. This big mentor network is going to be key to helping 50 companies. We got to surround them, give them a bear hug to give them what they need to get to the next level. So we're super excited about this. And today we're launching cohort 2. So you can go to Centrifuge to learn more, but we're accepting applications today for the next, I think, 3 weeks. And the program will start in January. So again, if you know anybody, if you personally want to go through the program, want to learn more, please reach out because It's cohort 2 will continue to produce great companies. Talking about the direct side of the investment a little bit. So since November of last year when we launched Fund 3, we've done 14 deals and we've deployed a little over $5 million to work. Our check sizes are typically $250 to $500 and do local deals. We don't technically will lead a deal, so we require a lot of capital providers to do this. But this is where the fund-to-fund networks really has come into play. So we have attracted $72 million of outside capital into Cincinnati. So that's huge. I think, when I was talking to Bob earlier, this is the model that they really wanted to set up, is having really good companies locally, putting local money to work, but really getting outside capital here. We have about 80 VCs in town this week outside of Cincinnati to meet with the community partners, meet with their startups. So, I would say it's working. So this is early signs, but this has been going great. Again, we're going to continue to do the fund to funds. We've deployed a little over $12 million into funds. We continue to meet more funds on a regular basis, and we're going to continue the strategy because it's proving to work, and it's proven to help our ecosystem grow. Our model's working. So just an example. So as we invest in our funds, Gutter came in and led the deal with SoundTrace, one of our first deals. Gutter is a New York-based firm. Hyde Park out of Chicago is a great Cincinnati partner. They've been in the region for a while. They have invested in Phenopsly. We have 1809 and Origin Ventures in Cloverleaf, and we have Fire Road and Eneritize. So this is just a good example of, as we invest in funds, we're co-investing with them in some of our most promising startups and entrepreneurs. So this is what gets us really excited now that our fund network is really big and we're attracting capital and we're really creating solid companies locally. Hopefully you feel the impact is real. I mean, again, thank you for coming to this event. Thank you for coming yesterday. It's been a wonderful group. I can't thank my team enough for really putting all this on. As I wrap up, it's really connecting the ecosystem. As Nikki talked about Deal Room, we talked about a lot of the programs we're doing, a lot of the one-to-one many programs we put on in the beer hall. We're connecting startups with talents and mentors. This is critical, right? They all need talent and mentors. We're accelerating the next generation of founders to the Venture Velocity program, and we're deploying capital and attracting capital from outside the region. So this is what we talk about a lot. This is what our focus is. And this is how we're going to win as a region. We need more people building companies, raising money to have these outsized exits. So they recycle the money, they recycle the talent, they keep it here. And become mentors and become angel investors. I mean, what Exact Target did in Indianapolis, that's what we're going for here. They had a really big exit, and you'll hear from Mike Fitzgerald later. And now they got High Alpha, and they're doing really well as a city. But as I wrap this up, it just takes opening one door. So if you think about a startup, or if you think about your possible customer, just open one door for them. It just takes one opportunity. Connect someone with a talent, connect someone with a pilot. So with that, this is going to take the whole community to help build our ecosystem. I think we're 12 years in, and if you believe the 20-year journey, we're halfway there, and I think we've got a lot of the foundational things built over the last 12 years with talent, capital, and team. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay, guys, don't go far. We're going to get started up here in about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right, all right, all right. We are going to get started with our next session of the morning. So if I could get everyone to get back into their seats so we can get started with our next session. But before we do that, can we give it up for our last speakers, Guy, Nikki, and JB, for that amazing presentation? If I can get everybody in the back of the room to make their way forward to the front so we can fill up these seats, we have another dynamic session coming your way. We are excited to welcome two individuals who are both dedicated to the growth and development of our region. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me right now in welcoming the President and CEO of Jobs Ohio, JP Nassif, and President and CEO of Ready Cincinnati, Ms. Kim Lauterbach. Can we show them some love?
Roll in.
All right, everyone, kindly, we're going to get this session started. If you could close out those combos, thank you. Little ASMR here. Nope, that didn't work. Okay. Kim, JP, take it away.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. This is really incredibly exciting. The energy level is, I could feel it when I walked into the building. So congratulations on all the progress. Not sure if you know what a Jobs Ohio is. I would expect most entrepreneurs that are focused on building greatness, great company, great service, don't know what it is. When I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I didn't know what a Jobs Ohio or economic development was, but it is part of the broader ecosystem. It's part of what powers the broader ecosystem. So Jobs Ohio is Ohio's private economic development platform. It's a very unique platform, different than other states. Most states structure their economic development to be part of state government. Ohio privatized its economic development engine back in 2011. And it's great, incredible advantages. Obviously, when we're working with companies like the ones that you're a part of or that you own, we make all different types of investments. And when we work with the company, we require them to share a lot of information with us because we want to make sure, just like when your investors do due diligence on your companies, you want to make sure that your investment we want to make sure it's going to produce a return for Ohio. So the one thing you probably don't want is when someone's got your private financial info, your strategic info, you don't want that shared with your competitors, or in some cases, you don't want it shared with the financial markets until you're ready to share it. So being private, we can keep that information private. We're not subject to the sunshine laws. So that's one of the key differentiators and strengths that allows us to move quicker, negotiate deals quicker than our state competitors. We also have an independent source of funds. Also something unique, maybe you don't know this, that Ohio is a control state, controls the distribution of spirituous liquors. 2013, it's great to be private, but if you have to spend a year or two chasing the funds required to do a deal, by the time you secure the funds, you've lost your advantage of time. So in 2013, before my time, people that were part of Jobs Ohio raised about $1.5 billion, just shy of that, in the bond markets, paid it to the state of Ohio for the right to lease the operations of Ohio's liquor enterprise. So we have an economic development mission, and we have a liquor distribution business.
So JP, that means the more that you drink here,
yes,
spirituous liquor, the more money we have to do our jobs.
It's true. We do encourage everyone to consume responsibly.
It's always fun to say that. People laugh at me.
Very important to say. It's true. We have, drink responsibly, but the profits from that go in to fund the deals. It's about just south of a $2 billion business. It nets out about $250 million a year. And that we use those dollars for investments, incentive packages, growth capital, different types of programs. And so that allows us to, again, be private, move quickly, and have resources that we can be creative with, curate, customize a deal, and again, so we can have a competitive advantage relative to our competitor states. And finally, the secret weapon having to do with Ohio is most of our competitor states are dominated by one large metro area, maybe two, and one or two large industries, but Ohio is unique. We've got this great diversity of places that you can live and operate a business. We've got the big city environment with the 3 Cs, all very unique in their own right. I've got medium-sized cities like Dayton, where I live, Toledo, Athens, and you've got these incredible small towns. And not every state has that. And so those are all commutable to the same place. So if your workforce or your investors want to live in a small town like Oxford, they can still commute in and work somewhere in the Cincinnati metro area. If you want to live on a farm near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, you can do that and still commute. So all kinds of different living and working environments gives us a big advantage. And to do that appropriately, we don't want to do it centrally from Columbus. We work through partners, and our partnerships reflect that makeup of the state. We have 7 regional partners, and down here you've got Ready Cincinnati that just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. They don't work for me. It is a real partnership. Each partner has their own board. They're typically a public-private partnership. They're focused on the ground, local, because at the end of the day, the deal we make with a company or with a family that's moving into Ohio to start working, they move to an MSA. They just don't randomly move to any part of a state. So our partner here is Ready Cincinnati, led by Kim and her team. And Kim, it's a great partnership from my perspective. We can go from state to local very quickly. Again, provides Ohio a competitive advantage.
Absolutely, thank you. Kim Lauterbach, President and CEO at Ready Cincinnati. I do think, JP, as we think about it, Ohio has got the best economic development system in the country, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, and that gives us the ability here at the local level to really do the job that we're able to do. And we are certainly unique at Ready Cincinnati. As JP mentioned, we're one of the 7 network partners of Jobs Ohio, but we are pretty unique here in Cincinnati in that my organization covers the entire MSA, which is not 1, not 2, but actually parts of 3 states, which we think we might be the only regional group that covers parts of 3 states. So we're able to kind of look holistically at the entire MSA. A good portion of our arsenal, if you will, is on the Ohio side of the river, but we look at the entire MSA, certainly as we look at our Fortune 500 landscape and the resources that we have to do that work. As JP mentioned, we are 10 years old, which I've been here the entire 10 years. Time flies. In those 10 years, we've closed over 450 deals, created over 42,000 jobs, created $5.5 billion of capital investment, $2.5 billion in payroll, and really looked at an economic output of $180 billion for that region in 10 years. So pretty phenomenal numbers. But I think what's more interesting is we talk about the work that we do together in the innovation ecosystem, and where we're looking to support and help companies, startups, scale-ups grow and really make sure that they're sticky and they stay in Ohio. So maybe a little bit on the innovation ecosystem.
Sure.
And I see Ryan Hayes here and some of our other partners that are in that ecosystem.
So we, again, as an ecosystem partner, we don't focus on the whole economy. We focus on 10 tradable industry sectors. So if the business can be located in another state or another country, it's likely that we will compete for that. And at the center of our operation in those 10 sectors are our professional staff. We pull our team, mostly economic development enterprises, employ generalists that love their community, know where every nook and cranny of their community is, but don't necessarily have depth in the industry sectors. So when you're negotiating a deal with a financial company or with a semiconductor company, having depth of experience allows us to curate a deal with that company that's great for them and that's great for us, because that is the objective, to make sure it works for them. And I saw that we had Ron Rock here, Stephanie Eisen, and some others from our team. But we've also we do incentive packages in those 10 sectors. I need to talk about the return on investment model, the way we count. You see these dollars that can be floated around as incentives, and they can be off-putting. It just seems like terms like corporate welfare are used, but to some extent, you could call it that, I suppose, but we make sure through our platform that Ohio gets a return on every deal. And the way we calculate that return is essentially the payroll taxes that are generated from that deal, from the net new jobs from the deal where we invest. Those payroll taxes over time are always more than the dollars that we put into that deal in the first place. And you'd be surprised, the average payback period where we hit break even is less than 2 years. So we can move quickly. We can do that, negotiate in private, and we work with regional partners so we can go from state to local, and we curate deals that get a return for Ohio, but we also make investments. And Kim referenced the innovation ecosystem. And again, we're not trying to innovate inside of Jobs Ohio down here in Cincinnati, but we are trying to catalyze and make investments that let our world-class partners create an innovative ecosystem. And we believe that that's our role as a platform. So you may have seen since 2020, we alongside with Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted, have made 3 investments in 3 innovation districts. $100 million into each of those innovation districts in the 3 Cs. And our investment is designed to catalyze other behavior. Part of it is the anchors that are part of receiving that money are required to increase the number of very specific STEM certified graduates from their institution. In University of Cincinnati's case, and I see Ryan Hayes is here, he leads the Innovation District in Cincinnati. Cincinnati was the leader in getting that established. At the end of the 10-year arc of the Innovation District, University of Cincinnati will triple the number of those graduates annually that come out the door. So statewide, one of the talent outcomes statewide is that we will have an additional 47,500 STEM certified graduates out of those Ohio anchor institutions. So it happens over time. Another one of the outcomes is to make sure you have the talent that you need, is to make investments in place. Includes evergreen investment in space. So you may have heard of some of the investments in and near the Cincinnati Innovation District between Cincinnati Children's and University of Cincinnati, but that's designed to make a favorable loan, do an investment. When that building is occupied and has a steady stream of revenue, pay back the loan and reinvest it in more development. We're still less than halfway into that arc, but you can share how you see it going from your perspective, Kim.
Absolutely, and I think what's so fascinating about the innovation ecosystem here is it's truly that ecosystem. So we have so many partners, yes, the anchor institutions, but we've got this great space right in that innovation district, and it's really designed to help connect our university students to help on a talent perspective to bring the best and the brightest here to really work together so that we can continue to foster and grow the startup ecosystem. So we've got the space that it needs, but I think where the traditional economic development piece comes in, which sometimes can be a little bit confusing because we have such a robust ecosystem, is how we work both with those partners and individual companies to put the right partners into those buildings to help create this ecosystem that will continue to grow. So it's our job here locally to look across the national and quite frankly international landscape to identify companies who might be able to move here or to scale here, right? So where typically we step in at a 10, 12 person project or greater, we have this great ecosystem already in place. You're looking at Centrifuge at Cincy Tech, you're looking at Mortar, you're looking at Lightship, you're looking at so many of our other partners here that help work with startup entrepreneurs that connect us in when they're in that growth stage. We can then look to the innovation ecosystem and the innovation districts for that space in that area to scale and grow and to make sure that we're really making a mark here in the Cincinnati area.
Thanks, Kim. And so, again, the word ecosystem, maybe it's overused, maybe it's not, but it is a bit of a nebulous term. But you know it when you see it. You know when the resources are there to make the connections that you need, whether it's for mentoring, for hiring someone that's going to help you grow your business, to have a place to house them if you're not ready to scale up your own facility, or to have some growth or angel capital ready to help you expand quickly. That's what we're trying to create to support what's happening here. And I'd encourage you to get to know Ryan Hayes and what's happening at the Cincinnati Innovation District. I'm sure as they feed in the type of curricula and the types of graduates, they want a continuous feedback loop from all of you on the types of graduates that you're looking for. And that's one, I think, something very special about the University of Cincinnati is they are very agile and very responsive for the size of institution that they are. And that's going to keep Ohio and Cincinnati competitive.
And I think as you look at sort of another bookend to what's happening in the Innovation District, you look at the college at Elm at Miami University that Jobs Ohio and Ready Cincinnati also played a role in. And that's looking again and trying to create the right environment to draw the students and connect them to talent. It becomes a workforce talent attraction area. It's allowing startups and students out of the Miami University system to also look at some of that innovation ecosystem. And again, we're putting our dollars in there jointly because we believe it's the talent attraction piece, but also providing the types of startup spaces and support to continue to scale those companies.
We also, as part of the innovation strategy we also have a small growth capital fund, like you here, and that's Steph Eisen actually is a important part of that team. We're not trying to be a lead investor, so like I heard that you're structured, we want to follow a credible investor with a track record to make sure that maybe a deal that would not have happened it can get syndicated because we put that last dollar in at the same terms as the lead investor. But so far, we started that investment up in 2020 during the pandemic. We wanted to make sure that Ohio startups had some liquidity. So then when we started to come out of whatever was happening at the time, that Ohio companies, startups in particular, would have a competitive advantage coming out of the pandemic. And as a result of that, in just 4 years, there's been external growth capital investment from outside of Ohio coming in of an additional $1 billion of investment, syndicated to the same deals that we've had. So that's another way that we participate. We're going through our next 5-year strategy. So some of these things will change, some will scale up, we'll start some new initiatives, but we're looking at that right now.
And when I think about that growth capital fund that has made investments into companies across the state, but specifically here in Cincinnati, as you think about those next stages where the traditional economic development ecosystem then steps in, is Ready Cincinnati has the ability to help find a site, whether that is land or an office as you're going into that next phase of growth. We certainly can help connect to talent, and we'll talk about talent here in a moment. We have the ability to connect to local resources in terms of financing, whether it's through Alloy and our small business development loans, it's through many of our ecosystem partners here, but how are we helping to knit that financing together? And then ultimately, you get to the point of the incentive piece where JP's talked a little bit about the state level. It's then Ready Cincinnati's job to help connect in those local level investors as well. So that same return on investment model, but at our local level, what city, what county, how can we help support and grow those businesses? So I think it's a pretty holistic system, but I think talent is something that we do really well in the Ohio market. And you think about things that Jobs Ohio has just invested in. JP and I just had the honor of being at the Forbes Under 30 Summit that wrapped up 9-10 days ago, maybe, and looking about really a talent play. And again, that startup ecosystem, the funders, the entrepreneurs, the ventures, bringing them into Ohio, first Cleveland, now Cincinnati, next year Columbus, to showcase Ohio, but it's to bring that talent and focus that spotlight here.
Yeah, that's right. So, and you all know this, essentially Jobs Ohio is called Jobs Ohio because 15 years ago, there weren't enough jobs for the people living here or graduating from our universities. And, fast forward 10 or 15 years, and now we have more open positions than we have qualified people. So we're going after the talent challenge, and it's not just a challenge for us. Our Midwestern competitors, our competitors on the coasts, and really the whole developed industrialized world's having this issue with in-demand talent. And so for each deal that we do, it's all unique and customized, curated to the needs of the client. Sometimes they need real estate, sometimes they need some specific type of equipment, but every time we have a talent acquisition incentive that comes along with the package. So when these companies come in, or when it's a local company that's expanding, we embed a small team of our talent acquisition professionals. They work with the HR team at the company in question and come up with essentially a human resources plan with very specific objectives and specific requirements and certifications. And then we help them navigate the workforce development ecosystem because it's a little different in each region. And so we want to remove that friction from the company, but at the same time, as Kim alluded to, we do know over the next 8 years, there's a 500,000 plus gap in the number of specific in-demand subset of STEM talent that we're going to need if we're going to fill the jobs that are expanding naturally and organically here and the ones that we are planting here in industries like semiconductor industry with Intel, the EV battery industry, and you've heard, with Honda, LG, and GM, and well beyond. So some are going to get produced through the investments in the innovation districts, but we're also working with the 4- and 2-year colleges, and in particular with the DeWine and Husted administration, who are very interested in making sure there's a scalable, sustainable solution to talent. Kim mentioned branding. For those of you that have been around a long time, you remember this kind of momentum was not happening 10, 20, 30 years ago. There was a daily bevy of companies and people leaving to go south, to go west, or go overseas. And just in 2011, when Jobs Ohio was created, we were a bottom 10 growth state. 49 out of 50 in the growth of those 10 tradable sectors. 10 years later, we're a top 10 state in those sectors. And so part of this is the talent acquisition program, talent development through the innovation districts, and branding our communities. Most people, especially the young people, don't really have much of an opinion at all of Ohio, although you've all seen some of the memes out there. And so we're making investments in things like the Forbes activation to show people that have not been exposed to this place, show them the Ohio that we know. The great place that values balance and it values community, at the same time valuing achievement and excellence. Those two things exist together here in Ohio, and that's what we're trying to show the rest of the world, and in particular the talent pool through initiatives like we just had with Forbes.
And so I think when I think of questions that are usually asked to us through our partners or our clients who come to us, first and foremost, it doesn't cost anything to engage with Ready or Jobs Ohio. Our services are free to all of you through our investor network, whether it is the spiritus liquor business or it's the investor dollars that we raise. So please reach out to us. At Ready Cincinnati, we say we are the first point of contact for companies looking to connect. I guarantee you we don't have all of the answers. We probably don't even have half of them, but it's our job to know the right people to connect you to. So please reach out to our teams, ask your questions, ask us about resources. I did see Kyle. I don't know if he's still in the room. Kyle Newman is here. He's raising his hand. Kyle is here from Ready. We're going to have Ready staff here the entirety of this event. So please identify them, reach out, ask questions. Let us help connect you and engage you. That's what we're here to do. I encourage you to take advantage of these services without reaching out. We can't help. And then what other questions do we get asked? And I'm always saying, no, you should. I think it's our job, again, to know the resources in the room. So you have such tremendous support and help here. We want to see you grow. We want to see you thrive. Just make sure that you have those conversations with us. Yeah? That's it. Okay, I do want to pause for questions because we always get lots and lots of questions. So I see one in the back already. Yes? That's true. He's got to project somehow here. They're coming.
Thank you, boss. Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Manny Ado, and I own a skincare line which has distribution in about 1,500 Kroger stores. Now, because of the distribution, I've been working with African companies to be able to export their products into the United States, and we have a summit coming up. I've been talking to Sierra, or your team, and I think Justin, yes, on a jobs wide thing, figuring out if we have companies who are coming to build factories and bringing products into the United States, I know that there are certain incentives that the companies can get if they build it in Cincinnati or Ohio instead of other states. My question here is, if a company comes into Ohio and they are building a factory to create jobs for people, if the money is raised to do that in the United States, instead of bringing the money from outside into the United States, does that qualify for FDI, and would that also allow that company to get the benefits that it would reap if the money is sourced from the United States?
So you certainly are already ahead of the curve because you're connected to both Sierra and Justin, so they are absolutely having those questions. You know, as we look at the investment, we have a pretty robust foreign direct investment attraction strategy, right? And which is just part of the ecosystem that we offer. So we don't look so much at the source of the investment as to make sure that what the actual jobs created, capital investment, payroll type areas are. And then we have a variety of programs that can help offset those costs as they're looking to come here. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's what I think I heard.
So, you know, regarding the different programs for foreign direct investment versus domestic investment, I think I'm going to have to get back with you to talk about that. But I will say that Ohio, for 2 years in a row, has been the #2 state in the nation for attracting foreign direct investment via mega projects, large projects like the Intel project and others. And we, from an incentive perspective, we use the same formula at Jobs Ohio. Regarding depending on the strategic value of that company, and that'll determine how much we put in, how long we'll be willing to absorb a payback period to get to break even. But we look at the foreign direct investment and the onshoring from the coast or other places, very similar in terms of how we size and scale the amount of incentive that'll be offered.
Hi, I'm from Connecticut, and I'm here this week because I'm a service provider working with a Cincinnati startup. In Connecticut, we have an angel investor tax credit. Does Ohio have one of those?
That would not be I'm like, that would not be my question. Thank you, Emma.
Kim, I'll ask one. What kind of metrics, or if I'm a founder, I'm building a company in Cincinnati, at what point should I begin to reach out to Ready? What kind of metrics are you guys looking for that makes me?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so typically a project that we would work with in a very traditional economic development incentive project would be the creation of about loosely 10 jobs, $600,000 in payroll, or $1 million in capital investment, which is a pretty significant project. But we are working on some small business grants, which lower those thresholds. They focus specifically on companies who are making investments either in a distressed zip code or with minority ownership, which are a much smaller threshold, and those can be $50,000 cash grants. But again, I encourage you to reach out to us because we partner with our ecosystem partners to make sure that if it's not in the correct stage for Already Cincinnati, we're working with our partners to make sure that we're building those relationships for the future. Thank you for that.
All right, congratulations, everyone.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I could have everyone please get back to their seats. We have another incredible panel that is going to be starting momentarily, but we can't start the panel until everyone gets to their seats. I know the conversations are great. You're making lots of connections, but I need everyone to please bring the conversations down and find a seat so we can begin our next panel. Again, we need everyone to find a seat. If you're going to continue to network, we're going to ask that you take it out of the room at this time, but we really want to make sure that we're giving our next panelists that are going to give us a lot of wonderful and great information our full and undivided attention, right? There we go, there we go. We're getting inching closer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have 5 incredible panelists coming to the stage right now for a panel titled The State of Venture Perspectives from Tech Hubs. Let's show them a lot of love with a big round of applause right now as they come to the stage. And I'm gonna let them introduce themselves because they know themselves far better than I do, but they're an amazing group and they're gonna captivate you for the next 45 or so minutes. Let's give them another big round of applause. Make them feel very welcome at home.
Me?
There you go.
I am.
There you go.
All right, thank you. All right. 5 great panelists and a moderator, that's me. So welcome, everybody. My name is Mike Fitzgerald. I am a partner at High Alpha. We're a venture firm over in Indianapolis, and went to school a little north of here at Miami, and have always been well connected to Cincinnati, so happy to be here today. Yeah, some Miami claps. That's good. That's good. All right. How about that? Excellent. Like all good panels, we're going to start off with some introductions, but then we're going to try to keep it lively here. We had a nice dinner last night and did some pre-work, so hopefully we'll have some good action for you today. Jackie, you want to start in addition to introducing yourself, maybe a little bit about the firm and the ecosystem that you kind of come from down in Austin?
Yeah, of course. Well, thanks for having me. It's always great to get back to Cincinnati and Ohio. My name is Jackie DeMonte. I'm a co-founder and GP at Grid Capital. We lead formational stage rounds in industrial tech companies. So think supply chain, manufacturing, construction, and sort of the roots of where the Midwest really supports industry and companies. I'm in town from Austin, have spent the last 5 years in that ecosystem. We've certainly gone through a boom cycle. I think it was a very hot city for a while and is still that, but got a lot of attention. Very strong startup ecosystem, heralding from the days of Texas Instruments and Dell. Lots of big tech coming into town, Apple, Oracle, Tesla's building. And so we're really starting to see that foundational layer build up, and we hope sort of set the foundation for what will be some sort of rapid startup growth in the future.
Mike, why don't you go next?
Hey everybody, thanks for having me. Appreciate being here. It's been great to be part of this energy. I think the folks who were speaking earlier today hit it right on the head. There's something very special going on in this community, and really grateful to be a part of it this week. I'm from Chicago. I spent the last 25 years operating tech companies, and then about 10 years ago started investing and fell in love with trying to distill the learnings that I had from being an operator into something that could be useful for investors. And then made my side hustle my full-time more recently, and co-founded Permanent Capital Ventures, where with my team, we work to try to find those entrepreneurs that are working in B2B tech that are ready for enterprise scale, and then we lean in to help them build out their go-to-market machines. So for you entrepreneurs in here who are in that category, we look forward to meeting you.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. My name is Sasha McKenzie, and I'm a GP at Wellington Access Ventures. We are Wellington Management's early stage fund. We're actually a first-time fund, raised $150 million to invest in seed and Series A rounds of B2B SaaS, fintech, consumer, and health companies. led by underrepresented founders. So we love diverse teams that have incredible female, people of color, immigrant founders as part of the founding team set. Before that, I actually grew up in Dayton, Ohio. So shout out to anyone who is here from Dayton. But I guess I'm what you call a boomeranger because I left Ohio for about a decade, worked in Manhattan before coming back and doing what I'm doing for Wellington. That's me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Medved. I'm a partner at Lair Hippo. We're an early stage venture capital firm based in New York City. We've been around since about 2010. And in the early days, we invested in a lot of consumer businesses. So we were first check into companies like Warby Parker and Allbirds and Glossier. And loving consumer really brought me here to Cincinnati. So back in the day when JB and some friends launched the Brandery, I was involved very early on. And always loved coming back to a place that clearly understands the consumer, particularly the mainstream American consumer, more than I think any other city in the country. I think whether you're in New York or San Francisco, any of these coastal startup ecosystems, you can kind of live in too much of a bubble. And I really enjoy getting out here, in part to my family has some Midwest roots in Cleveland. I apologize for being a Cleveland fan. But anyway, so I've been in New York investing for 15 plus years. And I mean, our ecosystem like Cincinnati, I mean, 10 years or 15 years ago when we started, there were barely any funds operating actively in the city. And it has really scaled tremendously, and I think in large part to a lot of the behaviors that you see here, where you're bringing in a lot of the large corporates to help support the ecosystem. And I do think a key thing, and which hopefully at some point we'll see more here as well, is getting a lot of the big tech companies to come to town. I mean, to the point about Austin seeing Tesla and Google and those folks coming in. I mean, our office in New York, Google actually just opened a new 6,000 square foot office adjacent to ours. OpenAI is coming to the city. Like having that in the ecosystem really helps attract a lot of interesting talent that can kind of move back and forth from kind of startup to traditional tech roles as well. So there we go.
JB Kropp, Managing Director of Centuries Capital. You guys probably heard a lot of what we're doing, but we're geographically constrained, so we just focus on Cincinnati. So we have a wide lens of industries. We're looking to back the best founders in town, and working with all the partners here on the stage to help give them deal flow to come into town and look at and hopefully co-invest with us.
Yeah, that's good, and that's a good bridge, JB, because the first thing I want to talk about is place. So we've heard a lot this morning from the earlier speakers about what's happening here in Cincinnati and the programs and the energy and the work that you and your team are doing. I'm curious from an investor perspective, Mike, maybe I'll start with you. When you're evaluating a potential investment now in 2024, do you ask where the CEO is from? Do you ask where they're building a team? Do you ask if they have an office culture or they're full remote? How does that play into your evaluation of a new opportunity?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. I think on all of those things. I think the relevance, I think where things have changed, in my opinion, over the last 10 years certainly, is what do the answers mean? Whereas I think in the past, if someone would have said, I live here, my team is in four different places, and we're in the office 2 days a week, probably would have been a hard pass. And I think today, there's a lot of ways to build companies. I have an opinion as an operator about the ways that have worked for me and people I know. That's not necessarily the way it's working best for this entrepreneur. So I think having an open mind and really understanding what's the nature of the business, what's the nature of the work, and therefore, are there optimal places to be founded? Not every business should be founded in San Francisco. Matter of fact, San Francisco, having lived there for 8 years myself, is a wonderful place and also a very challenging place to do a number of things. Some businesses should be started right here. Some businesses have a natural right to be started somewhere else. And so I think the nature of the business, the passion of the founding team, what talent they need, those should really drive the construction questions of how the company might form.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Sasha, in your introduction, you spoke a little bit about the profile of a founder that you'd like to back. How do you think about place with already a more narrow view, perhaps, of who you'd like to back?
Yeah, so Wellington Management is globally headquartered in Boston, and our ventures team really operates mostly out of New York, but a few of us partners are geographically dispersed. And so we really invest in founders. We're mostly North America focused. We can invest internationally as well outside of North America. And we come with the belief that you can build a strong team remotely. We like the unit economics that we see out of some founders building, not in those major cities. And we think that that has the opportunity to drive true value and differentiation in how some of these companies are built. But we do ask all those questions because for us, it really is important to understand the leader, how they're thinking of leading and building their team going forward. While we love founders who are not necessarily in the coast, we do have a preference for teams that are centrally located. It's not a deal breaker for us, which is maybe a bit counterintuitive to how we're building our team. But we definitely prefer for them to be close together unless there's a really good justification for them not being so. And so if the talent is so strong that you needed to hire that person that's across the country, like, we love listening to those stories too. So I would say we're generally open to it, but do have a little bit of a preference for teams that are kind of huddled closer together.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. Maybe one more, Jackie. Austin, as you said, hot market for startup activity, has been now for several years. Are the companies that you see or interact with in Austin, are they going into the office and sitting together and writing software and making sales calls, or are they more distributed?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say in Austin, we're seeing a lot of in-office culture. And part of that is driven by the fact that people want to be in Austin. I found that it's actually very easy to recruit people from the coasts, from the Midwest, into Austin startups. I think JP was talking about brand earlier, or sort of like geographic brand. Austin has a great brand, a great national brand, and so it's actually very easy if you are building that strong in-office culture to get people to check out the city. It's a 3-hour flight to, I think, every major city, 3 hours to SF, 3 hours to New York, I think 3 hours to Miami. And so it's been a very, I would say, easy way for people to orient and say, we're not going to take a break on talent. We're not going to say we have to hire the best engineers, so we're going to hire engineers in San Francisco, and we're going to hire biz dev in Austin or Chicago. Folks have really said we can either find it locally or we can recruit it in. And so that's been, I think, a really strong point of the city.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's move to another topic here, and Joe, maybe you kick us off. We spoke a bit last night at dinner about a couple different personas of a founder, maybe a product or an industry-oriented founder, or a sales, go-to-market oriented founder. When you're looking at new investment, and maybe even sharing with the group what size check and what stage you look at, but talk a little bit about that persona, what you're looking for, what stands out to you in the way that founder presents him or herself.
Sure. So we're pre-seed and seed investors, and for us that means we're typically writing a $1 to $2 million check in a $3 to $4 million round. So usually there's some alpha or beta product, maybe a little bit of revenue. I think that, and we specialize on investing in talent. So we're generalists. We started in consumer when entrepreneurs in New York in particular shifted to more enterprise focus. We went there. We got into fintech. We've done robotics, crypto, kind of across the board. So for us, it really is about talent. And I think our focus generally, we like to say we like to invest in fully formed humans. So what does that mean for us? So I think we're probably less likely to invest in the hotshot kid that came out of some fancy school. We'd rather invest in someone who has been hacking away in a space for 5 or 10 years, maybe at a larger company, but they had a technical bent. They found this problem they are desperately want to solve, that they understand intimately. Or maybe it's someone who was the number 2 or the 5th hire at a successful company that has kind of tasted success, but it hasn't, they still have a chip on their shoulder. It hasn't been their company. And so we really want to find someone, honestly, who's been kind of beaten up a little bit and been to battle, because, launching a company is insane. Running, you do it for 10, 12 years. The vast majority of them fail. But when they succeed, the success can be overwhelming and tremendous. And we love to be along for that ride. But you have to know that someone has the grit to work through it. So I think we we tend to we just backed a team that's in doing risk management in the healthcare space. Not the sexiest segment, but you meet the founder and he just lives and breathes this stuff. He just absolutely loves it.
That's interesting. I want to press on that a little because I think that is certainly a profile for which we can trace some really successful companies. There's also this idea that you have to be a little bit naive to jump into starting a business, right? That all this experience that you may have learned over 10 or 20 years would tell a sane person, hey, don't try this. This is really, really hard. So if somebody comes in and has some of the passion and so forth that you're looking at, but they haven't done it before, are you attracted to that and say, hey, they might run through a wall because they don't know any better? Or is that you prefer that first profile that you described?
It's a mix. We will also, we just look for someone who's been successful in life. So maybe it's not someone who is an expert in a specific segment, but has just demonstrated that they have the determination and the grit to succeed. One of our actually most successful investments is a company called Zipline, which we invested in when it was a toy robotics business, which failed. The founder we had backed, he did go to a fancy school, he was at Harvard, but he was like a world-ranked rock climber, just a really intense individual. And the original business he launched failed. He pivoted to, he was rock climbing in Africa with a friend of his who was running an NGO, and he was talking about how hard it was to deliver emergency medical supplies. And he was like, you could do that with drones. And so he developed this fixed-wing drone system that has now delivered, I think they've done over 1 million deliveries in Africa, saving countless lives. And he's launched now in the United States. But that is someone we would look back and say, we just backed great talent. We have an incredible eye for talent. Now, we got lucky, clearly, but he did have the profile of someone who just really had demonstrated some success in a portion of life where he was really willing to, go for it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. JB, why don't you get in on the action here? You've built businesses, invested in businesses, a lot of that being here in Cincinnati. How do you feel about that profile of somebody who's coming with some experience versus somebody who might have a little bit more of the the grit and the naivete that would plow through some of the early struggles?
Yeah, I think the thing I love looking at is if someone is at a corporation, they've identified a problem, and they can't find the solution, and they're like, I'm going to jump out and do this because they really see an opportunity. Now, we spend time with a lot of these founders, like, okay, you're going from a corporate gig, cushy thing to something where you're going to make half of what you're making. And so there's a lot of education around what it means to be, a venture backable company. We actually take them through a little session and say, this is what it means to get diluted. This is what it means. This is the unit economics of how this works. And this is the journey you're signing up for. When you take on venture capital, you are going down a different path than you may at innovating within a corporation that's really safe.
Is that often the first time somebody's heard these things? I mean, can you tell when you're speaking to them that, hey, this is new information?
Yeah, very much so. In fact, our Venture Velocity program, we have a session that talks about this, just to make sure you know what you're signing up for. This is what this all means. And as you raise a seed round and Series A and Series B, this is what dilution looks like, and this is how you're going to have investors. And so, but it's because Joe, we're generalists. I love it when people come to me with an idea that they're trying, a problem they intimately feel and they know more about. Because we say there's riches in the niches, and some of these problems are being solved in niche industries that I would never have been exposed to because I'm not in them myself. So that's always attractive to find founders that bring those ideas and problems to you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think it brings up another topic that I really wanted to hit. How many people in the room have started or in the process of starting a business? How many hands? Okay, that's excellent.
Love that.
One of the challenges that I know I've had in businesses that I've started and has been laid to me by a lot of other founders is if I'm trying to raise money and I'm getting feedback or advice or guidance from those who invest the money, how do I process that information, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I've been at this for a few years. I've identified problem. I've got a handle on solution. I'm still in need of some growth capital because I want to build a venture-backed business. And I go sit down with Jackie, and she tells me something very different than Mike told me yesterday, which is completely different than Sasha is about to tell me tomorrow afternoon. How do as a founder, how do you expect people to process that, right? Because you're bringing some pattern recognition, you're bringing your own domain experience, but the founder has been at this business for 2 months, 2 years. How do you push information out? Jackie, maybe we'll start with you.
I have two thoughts on this, and I can't remember who came up with this framework, but it's something along the lines of, if an expert tells you something's wrong and they tell you how to fix it, ignore the solution, but recognize that there's a problem. And so I think that is very much what to take away from constant feedback. If you're getting feedback on market, even if it might be, oh, this market is too concentrated, or this small, it's like, okay, there's obviously something here that's a sticking point. Let me, go investigate that. So I think that's, sort of like one way to look at it is, feedback is feedback. You might not have to take the specifics of it, but the fact that it's there is most likely relevant. And then I think the other point on all of this is sometimes there's tension between what is good for investors and what is good for the company, and we don't always recognize the difference. I've worked with companies that have been forced into growing too fast because of the expectations set by investors. Never really figured out product market fit, but burned a lot of capital getting to some early revenues. That might have been the right sort of advice from the investor or the right expectations, but the founder didn't necessarily have the wherewithal to say, hold on a second, like I gotta trust my own perspective on this. And it's a really hard place to sit. I don't know how you really flush it out other than like sitting in a room and saying, okay, what are the assumptions sitting here and what are the incentives behind those? But it's good to recognize that, we're on, JB, you were saying this, you take venture, you're on a path, right? And the venture path doesn't always jive with some small decisions along the way.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Mike, I wanted to ask you this. I didn't get to ask you last night. One thing that a lot of investors will share with a founder or team is, I don't really understand that market. Is that market big? Tell me about the other players in that market. You were very early at LinkedIn, okay? How do early investors reconcile the idea of a market? Isn't the whole idea that there isn't yet a developed market, and yet you want me to come in with slides and convince you that there's a very big and readily available market? I know you've got some experience in this, but as an investor, do you have an expectation that a founder comes in and says, let me tell you exactly how big this market is and how it's developed?
Yes, so a few things. One is I think size of the market does matter. It really does. And so we often say that the size of the market would tell you how big the company can be, and the quality of the entrepreneur would tell you how big the company is going to be. And so it is important calculus in every conversation, in my opinion, between an entrepreneur and an investor, an entrepreneur and themselves, frankly. Put the investor aside. If you're going to put for an investor, you're going to, as the entrepreneur, you are one of a portfolio of bets, but for the entrepreneur, this is what you're doing with your life. So it's actually a lot more important, in my perspective, for the entrepreneur to get clarity on what is the market, not so they can put it in a deck and convince one of us, but so that you can convince yourself that this is a worthy pursuit of your time, because you only get so many of these shots on goal. So yes, I think it's important. Now the question is, how does one size a market, especially if it's a market that hasn't existed in the past? Because there are some businesses where you think you've got a better mousetrap for what an incumbent's selling, and it's quite easy to quantify it. And it's another challenge when you need to create a market size from something that doesn't exist. I think often what I would encourage you to do, especially for the math for yourself and then also to convince an investor, is to start with things that you understand and they understand. For example, maybe you're bringing technology to something that was previously done in services. And you can say, this isn't a software spend displacement market, but this is how much is spent on the labor that's going into this problem that my software will displace. And so if you can follow a logical path from some way to quantify the value of what you're doing, that ends up being the size of the market. But
I think that's jump in. I think that's a really good point. When I was being a little facetious and talking about, hey, this is the market for the yet to be developed product, that's not a Gartner report or something that HBS did a study on, but you're talking about educate me on the market. How did you conclude that there is business to be had here? And that may be a different chart, right? That may be a different story.
And I'll give you, and on the LinkedIn example, so I had the great pleasure of joining LinkedIn when it was a tiny company and not getting fired for 12 years and running a big chunk of it. And so it was a life-changing experience for me. And Reid Hoffman, in his great wisdom, who is the founder of the company, literally wrote on a one-pager pretty much exactly what the company turned into at the very beginning. He really saw the future very clearly. But if you LinkedIn's going to do $20-ish billion of revenue this year with probably 30% margins and growing like well. It's a continues to be a juggernaut company. If you would have asked, Greylock or Sequoia, some of the early investors there, what the market was for that, for professional networking, like was it an advertising business? And at the time in 2003 when Reid started it, the internet really only demanded consumer identity out of companies. You were an advertising company or perhaps an e-commerce company, and then maybe you were an enterprise company if you were something totally different. And what Reid really understood was, no, if you can connect the world's professionals and you can genuinely make them more productive and successful, you'll have this incredible data on which you can build SaaS applications, which is the economic engine of LinkedIn. And so that was a difficult thing, I think, to get one's arms around, but some of the best investors in the world, put a stake in the ground and said, I'm betting on that founder, first of all, because Reid had his act together, but also he told a good story, and he's actually published some of the fundraising decks. I think the Series B deck is online with some of his kind of details around it. So for founders who are interested in what a story that wasn't yet won looks like when you're telling it, Reid has shared a good example of it.
Yeah, that's really good. Joe, I know you invest in slightly different, you said kind of all over, but some consumer, some other things. Any thoughts on this market discussion and how you'd like to see a founder present that to you?
Yeah, I think similarly, we're looking for large enough opportunities to fit the scope of our fund. So I think when you're talking to investors, you have to get a sense for like, what is the scale of their fund? How large does the outcome need to be for it to be meaningful to them? So our fund size, like our funds are around $150 million. So for us, generally we're hoping any company we're investing in can get to $1 billion of value, right? If you're taking a check from Andreessen Horowitz, they'd probably prefer if you could get to 10 billion. They'd probably still be happy if you got to 1, but they'd like you to get to 10. And I think even just considering venture capital too, it's like not every company requires venture capital. Like Josh Kaufman, who founded First Round, used to say like, I basically distribute jet fuel. Not everyone needs it. So I think it's important to make sure, like when you're speaking to potential investors, just understanding what their goals are for the business long term. And I say particularly we saw this out of the peak cycle. There were so many companies that collapsed under the weight of their cap table that raised tons of money, and it was our fault for letting them do it as well. But like at the peak of the market, people took in hundreds of millions of dollars. You're still seeing it today with a lot of these AI companies. And if you're not going to get to that really significant outcome, you might end up as a founder literally making nothing. I mean, there's some companies that might sell for $500 million and founders get nothing, right? And there are other businesses that might sell for a couple $100 million, barely raised any money, and the founders make way more than someone who did more. So I think it's on both sides. Like we absolutely need a company to get to that scale for us to spend our time on it. And so it is critical that we understand either it's a large market that you're addressing and disrupting, or to Mike's point, that you're creating kind of a new market. But it doesn't make sense for everyone to raise money from us anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of heads nodding as you were offering that answer. And I do think that as venture investors, we've got to be careful that we're not trying to invest in everything, because there are a lot of very good businesses run by excellent founders who can build wealth and do all the great things, job creation, that don't need to raise venture, or it's not appropriate. Sasha, I'm wondering if you just take that, if you're sitting down with founders, do you feel like that's well understood of what you need to get from you and the fund that you work with in terms of return? Do you feel like most founders understand that, or is that an educational process like JB was sharing?
I would say in the case of most of the founders that we're seeing, it's a bit of a mix. We have a ton of repeat founders that fully know that we need to see a market size that can return our fund. And so I feel like most of the time it is pretty known. We do also work with a lot of green founders who are building for the first time, and we do have to give them that feedback and helping them understand. And, if you are, for example, building in a new market or trying to create a market, here's some of the things that we need to see. We need to see there's an inflection point behind, technology, or what inflection point in the market are you building against in order to create this new market. And the story of this that I think about a lot, it's more of a consumer story, but, when investors were taking a look at Uber when it was first coming around, the way that many of those investors sized the market was based on the size of the taxi cab market. And if I think about this story often when I'm talking to founders who are creating a brand new market, and the question that I'm thinking to myself is, okay, what needs to be true for this to work out? And, if you think in the case of Uber, what was changing from a technology standpoint was everyone started to have these things in their hands called a smartphone. And the geolocator technology had advanced significantly such that it made this outcome possible for much more than the taxi cab market. And so sometimes when I see a founder and they're talking about market I paint this picture of like, this is what you need to paint to an investor. Like, what are those inflection points that make this a truly venture backable outcome? Can you paint that picture for me? Especially if you are building in one of those new or nascent markets, you're trying to create your own market.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. One other question I wanted to ask, and I'll ask each of you this, just knowing that you've all seen and heard plenty of presentations. We've got strong representation from founders and people building businesses. In your years of doing this, what is something that you feel founders still kind of get wrong in the process of meeting with and interacting with investors? And I'm gonna start, and then I'm gonna put you on the spot here, JB. I just had this conversation yesterday. There are some founders who believe that I don't want or need to meet with an investor until I am ready to raise money, until I have answers. I want to raise $6 million. Here's my deck. I'm ready to go. And there may be some investors who like that. I think many of us, I want to go have a coffee. I want to chat. I want to get to know you a little bit. And if I can do that in 20 minutes or an hour or whatever it might take, well before you need to raise money, there's a couple things that really helps me with, and I think can help the founder with. We're starting to build a little bit of a relationship. If we're going to invest together, it's preferable if we're together for 10 or 15 years, okay? So this is not a shotgun wedding, so I prefer to meet in advance a little bit. It also allows me to start building some trust. If you say, hey, Mike, we've got a strong pipeline for the fourth quarter. I think we've got 3 deals that we might close in the fourth quarter. That's great. I just kind of chalk that away. And when we meet again in February, I just say, hey, how'd that fourth quarter go? And if you got 2 of the 3, let's talk about that. If none of them came in, let's talk about that. And so that process of getting to know someone a little bit in advance, I think is maybe something that some company builders or entrepreneurs get wrong, where they say, I'm not ready to raise money. I don't want to spend that time. I don't want to show you what I'm doing. My preference would be to start to get to know you a little bit early. Okay, JB, what's something that you observe that maybe founders get wrong when they're raising money?
Yeah, I think in the early stages, a lot of founders will come to us with this amazing growth projection on their revenue. And they haven't launched a product. They maybe not have talked to any customers, but they think that investors need to see these amazing hockey stick growths for the presentation. And a lot of times the numbers aren't believable. And I always ask them, like, how is this going to happen? Because if you're only raising $2 million and you think you're going to get to $100 million in revenue in 3 years, like, explain to me what needs to be true to make this work. And, a lot of times there's no answer, right? They just have plugged into a spreadsheet. They've been staring at the spreadsheet. They've been fantasizing about the size of the business, size of the market. but the numbers just aren't believable.
Would you prefer them to say, hey, I don't really know this? I mean, because I can empathize a little bit. I'm asking you for money. I believe my company is worth quite a bit. What would you prefer them to show you in terms of projection?
I mean, like you were just talking about, since these are very early stage companies, I prefer to get to know them to understand what makes them tick. Because, you know, when we make an early stage investment, you might have a conversation with them in 9 months, like, okay, you have 4 months runway. Now we have to raise them. I mean, it gets real very quickly as the relationship builds very early, because there's unpredictability in revenue. And so at the end of the day, you're betting on the founder. So I mean, for us at this early stage, come to us with like honest, believable numbers. I don't need to see a hockey stick. I don't need to see this amazing growth, because it's just not believable.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Joe, how about you?
I think one of the critical things is having enough customer validation when you're going to someone. You know, a lot of times maybe someone conceives a product, it sounds incredible, they think about how much they'd love it, how much they'd want to use it, and they walk through it, and then we ask, okay, so who's interested in this as a customer? And if there's not someone who, when they see this, will say, oh my God, I love this, I want it tomorrow, then you may need to go back to the drawing board, right? Because generally, if you think about the process as it goes, if you have a good meeting with the investor, they bring it to their team, ultimately they're going to want to do, you know, references with potential customers, maybe with customers in their own portfolio. We have 400 plus portfolio companies. Almost anybody coming to us, especially in the enterprise software world, can say, and I rarely ever hear this, here's 3 companies in your portfolio that I think would love this. By the way, I've spoken to 2 of them. I just think, you know, generally, and again, it depends on the stage. Like we're coming in at a very early stage. You're conceiving a product that maybe hasn't been in market, or it's just out there. Maybe you have some charter customers testing it out. But they are going to, you know, the greatest source of validation is going to be customer interest. And ideally, honestly, if you can get a portfolio company or some business that is affiliated with the investor to introduce you and say, hey, by the way, this person came up with this product, I love it, you should totally meet with them. Like that, I think is just, that helps you jump so many steps in the process.
Yeah, that's really good. So customer story, maybe back to the hockey stick, and I don't need to see that slide, but come share with me a customer who will be really upset if we took this away from them. They're using it, they're getting value. Yeah, I think that's really good. Sasha, how about you? Anything that you've observed that maybe people get wrong on occasion?
Yeah, I agree with JB. For me, it's mostly around those early financials. I think I've seen it be wrong both ways, though. I've seen it be wrong where you have this hockey stick that you can't explain or walk me through the building blocks in terms of how you got there. I've also seen it wrong, particularly with female founders, them do it the opposite way, where they point to exactly where they think they're going to be, so like their exact guess, versus painting more of a picture like, hey, if everything really, really went right, this is what this projection could be. And so I find that female founders in particular want to be super, super precise, which I think is fantastic, but I think always painting that high case in terms of, you know, if everything went right, if we beat our plan to what we think we could potentially beat it to, this is what our revenue could be. I think making sure you also paint that picture is important too. So based in realistic data, based in realistic metrics and margin profiles and all those good things, so you don't have this ridiculous random hockey stick, but I think also just make sure you're showcasing what the potential really is for the business.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so I'll take maybe a different angle on it, because one of the things I agree with what's been said, but something else I've observed is I think the dynamic that founders allow to persist in a pitch doesn't serve them by and large. And that dynamic, I mean, is as if the founder is the one who's asking. There's more capital than there are great founders and great ideas. And ironically, in my opinion, and this I'm mostly saying as a newer person to venture, mostly with my operator hat on, venture investors primarily, talking among ourselves, talk about we're looking for the outliers, right? We're looking for that incredible person who doesn't need us, but who perhaps could be made better by our help, but doesn't need us. And yet we walk into a room many times and we kind of dominate the conversation and the entrepreneur's on their heels. And so what I would really encourage entrepreneurs to do, and what I have observed not being done frequently enough, is to turn the tables and interview us. Why are we worthy of you selling us a piece of your baby and being with you, by the way, for the next 10 years and being able to fire you at some point potentially? I mean, it is a very deep relationship that you are bringing someone in on. You think about how you go to great lengths to find the best person reporting to you, an executive team hire that you might be making, all the interviews and the background checks and the references. Do that on us. Make sure that you've spoken to a bunch of the entrepreneurs that we've backed before in good times and bad, because there will be both. How do we show up? Do we do what we say we're going to do? Are we there when you need us? Do we bring the full scope of the resources of our network to bear for your success? And make sure from the beginning that we prove our worthiness to you. Take the power dynamic in the conversation and at least own it mutually. You know, you don't have to be domineering, but you are not on your heels. You are the asset that we are in pursuit of. And just because we have the capital doesn't mean that we have the power in that conversation. So just, I say, recognize that and own that.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. Jackie, bring us home.
I think having a very strong story and reiterating that constantly is something people are sometimes afraid to do. This applies to investor updates, second, third, fourth meetings. Sometimes folks want to rush through it. If, for example, you've met with me, but you're meeting with my partner next, you might kind of jump ahead because you don't want to waste time. Really taking the time to reorient, especially if the company has changed since the last time we've spoken. I find founders sometimes don't want to take up that space to really set the foundation for a conversation or to set the tone or maybe to orient people on just how great and compelling they are, but really making sure that you are reminding folks who you are, what you're building, why it's exciting at every single touch point. I find people can kind of jump through some of those things, and it's helpful, right? On the investor side, it's helpful. So,
yeah, that's very good. Mike, you mentioning the balance that is often overlooked by some founders in those situations. We talked a bit last night about the founder who is kind of confident and always in that sales posture. Maybe they're asking for a lead. Maybe they're asking for an introduction. I just want you to drill in on that, and we'll ask others if they have comments. But that's a really interesting signal when a founder is pitching to you, kind of how they strike that balance, and then what their ask is of you. Have you seen in the time you've been investing now? Have you seen good examples of that? Are there some people who have done that well?
Yeah, so just building on the context for those of you who weren't at the dinner, what we were talking about, to Mike's point, is sometimes we meet with the founder, and that person, sure, they're definitely interested in raising money from us, but they're also recognizing the percentage chance of that happening. They're going to get some value out of this meeting no matter what. You know, maybe they've done the homework on what we've published about who we've invested in. They're asked for intros there. They know that they've been thoughtful and said, gosh, the thing that I've built, my product, sounds like it could be a great fit for company A and company B. And just as investors, we're looking for signals for what the future might be should we partner up together. And as entrepreneurs, you can drop breadcrumbs for a trail for us to follow of how I prepared for this meeting and how I engage with you in this meeting is indicative of how I'm conducting myself outside of your view. So if you've done the homework on us and you have thoughtful questions, you have asks, you're probably also going through the rest of your business life trying to figure out and then acting on the best ways to extract value while you're giving value in all these situations. So yes, I think it's a great signal. You know, any way that you as a founder can show us the merit of us spending more time and then potentially money with you as demonstrated by your actions, the better.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. All right, I'm checking out our clock here. We've only got a few minutes. I wanted to ask this question. We're going to bring this back to Cincinnati. Joe, what you've mentioned, hey, it'd be great to do a deal. You've got a wide aperture, invest in a lot of different things, early stage. So I think that we've got a number of people here who are working on a variety of businesses who are likely at very early stage. Talk a little bit in your current fund. What's the profile of a deal that would get your attention? Be it traction that they may have on the revenue side, or a very compelling team. What might earn a meeting with you and your colleagues to hear an early stage story?
Well, we actually take a lot of meetings that come through the team at Centrifuge. That's one thing. I mean, like VCs generally, we could fill our days with thousands of meetings if we wanted to, right? Doesn't mean we're smart, but we have money and people like to talk to people who have money. So one thing really, like use your network as much as you possibly can. Like if I get an email from JB or Max, like we're gonna meet with the company. So the power of Centrifuge is the network that it has now, connections with an incredible number of VCs. I think there were like 100 VCs or something coming this week, right? And so people at Centrifuge can connect you to that crowd. And then I think, for us, we do probably 60% of our investing in New York. The remainder is across the US and Canada. And generally speaking, if it's not in New York, we probably like to see a little bit more traction, unless if someone has come specifically from a segment. So really, if you're out there and you've got 1, 2, 3 kind of charter customers that, like I said earlier, are gonna absolutely rave about your product, that is compelling to us. And it's like, and there's different customers have different value. Like right now in AI in particular, there are so many experimental dollars being thrown around right now that there are a ton of companies that have some early revenue that might be meaningless. Like you want to be sure that a customer reference or referral is going to come from someone who's going to say, I can't live without this product. Not that, oh, it's kind of interesting, I'm testing it out, or no, we'll see. So if we see some of that customer interest and you have the profile that says like you can really be a winner in this space, and potentially if it's coming from folks that we know, then we're highly likely to take that meeting.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Sasha, I see you nodding. You want to piggyback on that?
I do, yeah. I mean, I can't agree more with if a company is coming from JB or Max, I'm taking the meeting, and I've just been so excited by the companies that I'm talking to that are coming through Centrifuge, first and foremost. I agree, for us, with seed investing in particular, when there's very little metrics or traction, it really is about the founder's story, the founder's journey, and that founder problem fit. Why are they uniquely positioned to solve the problem that they're trying to solve, and what unique insight they may have received throughout their working lives, personal lives, whatever it may be, that gives them the right to build a big business in that space. We spend a lot of time really trying to understand the founder. And then from there, it's really thinking through, if we think the market's big enough, to your point, is this a vitamin for your customers, or is it a true painkiller? And I know VCs like to say that a lot, but it really is a very nuanced thing that we're trying to discern when we are doing customer calls and when we are trying to understand that if what you're building is truly important, it's definitely truly important to you, and we think there's a lot of great businesses that can be built out there, but when we're trying to find really venture scalable businesses, we have to believe that it meets a lot of that criteria. So those are some of the things that we're really digging in on at early stage.
Yeah, that's very good. JB, your name was invoked by the last two panelists as kind of the not only the gatekeeper, but somebody who could promote or sponsor a deal. I give you kind of the last word here. Within the ecosystem that you have here in Cincy, if I'm a founder, when do I come to you, right? And I'm using you as the team. When do I come to the team and say, hey, I would love an introduction. I've done some research, and Joe, who I saw on stage, I would really benefit from a meeting with him. What has to be true for you to kind of pass that through and say, hey, I think you're ready to go talk to Joe?
I mean, we look at it very similar lens through Joe does. Is this a venture scalable company? Do we believe in the market size? Do we love the founder? A lot of times we make the introductions because we love the founder. And because we're local, we get to spend a lot of time with the founders. We have, we own this building. It's a co-working space, so we have a lot of entrepreneurs that hang out here all day. So we get to see how they just interact on a regular day over lunch, over coffee. So, I mean, we have a huge pipeline, and so our goal is to just meet with every founder in town that's building something interesting. And if they're not ready for Centrifuge Capital or anyone else on the stage, then we'll talk about the Venture Velocity program. If they're not ready for the Venture Velocity program, we'll send them to Main Street Ventures or the UC Venture Lab. So there's a lot of other resources in our region, in our community, that can help get them down the path. And so we spend a lot of time making sure people are where they're at the stage, are they talking to the right resource, and then ideally, we're just trying to get the biggest pipeline for Centrifuge Capital so we can deploy this money, bring Joe in, bring Jackie in for doing deals together. So that's kind of the way we think about it.
Very good, very good. All right, please help me thank the panelists. Thank you, all 5 of you. Really appreciate it. That's great.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good job. Good job.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't go far. We are going to start the next session here in just a few minutes, so please don't go far. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I could get everyone to find their seats, we are getting ready to begin our next panel. It is one that has been highly anticipated. If I could get everyone to find their seats right now, please. We want to get started, but we obviously want to give these gentlemen the respect and undivided attention that they deserve. So if we could get everybody to cut the networking for just the next 28 minutes, they have a lot of insight they're going to give us, but we want to make sure we are giving them our undivided attention. Thank you all so much. So without further ado, it is time for the panel from football to founder. And joining us, we have elite athletes Dahani Jones, Jake Browning, and Dustin Grutza. Let's give them a warm welcome as they take the stage.
Can you all hear me now? Oh, there we go. Good morning. We kind of had a whole intro planned with the NFL, like
Dun, 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 dun.
we're going to get this going, right? But,
Back in 60 seconds.
all right.
Nobody knows what that's from. It's Berman.
Yeah, Chris Berman. He
Okay.
was on last night.
Just making sure. Does everybody know that? No? Yes? Okay, we're going to need like feedback, okay?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, as mentioned, we have some former Bengal stars here. To my, yeah, give it up for him. That's right. What'd you play, 11 years in the league?
Yep, 11.
11 years in the league. Linebacker, finishing up here at Cincinnati Bengals, Dahani Jones.
Who dey?
Who dey? We'll start with all the football stuff to kind of get this going. And to my immediate left, we have Bengals quarterback who had a breakout season last year, Jake Browning.
Who dey?
All right, and I did not play in the NFL, sadly, but I am former Bearcat, and always Bearcat quarterback. There we go. We got some Bearcats in here. All right, Dustin Grutza. So today we're talking about football, the founder. And although many of you hope you're Pop Warner football star, we're going to give them the playbook on how to be Dahani Jones. I don't think we're doing that today, but we'll get there. There's a lot of synergy between what we do on the football field and what these teams are to kind of the entrepreneurship startup world. I've been part of this community for years, and it's exciting to see it, coming back post-COVID, really building up and what Cincinnati has to offer. But we kind of have a few different slates of our careers here, where Jake is still playing with the Bengals right now. Dahani's years out, and me as well. We're years out of it and kind of the old vets in the entrepreneurship world now. But, I kind of want to hear from Dahani first, like, what led you into your entrepreneurial career? And did that start while you were still playing, or was that something after you finished up?
Well, I think it was 5th grade. I had a lollipop stand. I would actually sell them out of my locker. And so I quickly figured out, man, I could make a lot of money if I just go to the drugstore and buy a bag of lollipops and I come back and sell them to all my buddies for like $1 a piece. I was making crazy margins. And then I started selling water at the golf events. I was making money on that too. And so I think that the entrepreneurial bug had always stuck with me. And I think when you think about the world of sports, as a parent, you're kind of like the seed investor. Well, that's kind of pun intended, no pun intended. In your children, right? You're a seed investor. And then all of a sudden, now you go to college, that's like your Series A, right? And then if you get a chance to go to the league, that's your Series B. You get another contract, Series C. So there's interesting parallels, just like you're talking about, in the world of sports as it relates to the world of entrepreneurship. Every single athlete that goes onto the field that decides that they're going to run the ball, that they're going to kick the ball, that they're going to hit the ball, that they're going to tackle someone, that they're going to get tackled, they're an entrepreneur right out of the gate. And if you ask anybody at a young age, all they want to do is they want to own something. They want to run something. It's a challenging sort of world in which people kind of get pushed to either side, and people say, well, you should really do this, you really should do this. But it's innate, I believe, within all of us that we're all entrepreneurs.
Great point. I think, just talking on that a little bit more, I love that. We're all entrepreneurs all the way from the start, and we're investing in ourselves. You all are all investing in yourselves today. It's, I always talk about you gotta be ready to risk it. You gotta be able to take that risk. And I feel like in sports, a lot of times you are putting it all into being a quarterback, being a linebacker. All your effort is going into that. Well, you're risking, putting your time maybe into other things. But I like the idea of all that, and parents, like, that was a great way to put it there, Dahani, I gotta say. So Jake, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial vision, what you have going on. You're in the middle of what I assume there's a lot else here, a full-time job, but interested in something else maybe, or wanting to get started, or maybe already doing stuff. So tell us a little bit about your venture.
Yeah, just to touch on what he said, I think once you get to the NFL, throughout your junior football, high school, college, and it's very regimented. You know exactly where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be, and what the expectations are. Like, that is college coaching to a T, is know what the expectations are and make it, as streamlined as possible for college kids. Once you get to the NFL, you have your season for, 6 to hopefully 7 months. And then after that, I'm sure you remember your first rookie offseason where you're like, I don't have to be anywhere or do anything. And so you quickly become a time and really, money allocator of, okay, here's what I'm going to spend my time doing. This is the amount of time I'm going to spend working on some football stuff, and here's some things that I'm going to work on outside of football. And so I think for me, I was on practice squads for a lot of years, unfortunately, but I really became really good at figuring out, okay, here's the things I need to improve on, here's the ways to improve on them, and here's my weekly, daily routine to get better at those things. And so I got really good at time and asset allocation. And so, now that I'm at a point where I'm going into my 6th year in the NFL, I know that at some point, hopefully not soon, but at some point my career will end, and trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do when I'm done? I think what happens to a lot of players that maybe had any level of success, either they made a lot of money and they go into, straight into the investing world, or they made a little bit and they are 29 years old, don't really have a ton of work experience, and they find themselves, coaching, which, not knocking coaching at all, but for me, I want to start being proactive on making sure that I'm not just backed into being done with football and, having some bills and have to jump right into coaching if that's not the lifestyle I want. So long way of saying, as I kind of look at where I'm at now, the thing that I know really well is quarterback play, and have a ton of experience working with different quarterback coaches and knowing what really helped me improve. And so taking that and trying to reach, a wide geographic region by taking it online. So, working to have some quarterback training online for some different kids that are at the high school age.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things a lot of people have a misconception on is that if you play sports, you're financially set. That's not true at all. If you take $1 million and you're in the highest tax bracket, that's $500,000. If you have an agent, if you have a manager, that's another 20-30%. Then all of a sudden, depending upon like what type of lifestyle you lead, that's half of that. So I'm already down to basically $100,000 that sits in the bank. Now, obviously, if that's your rookie year, you got $100,000 in the bank. You started off $1 million. Everybody thinks you're a millionaire, so you might want to cut that in half. That's $50,000, right? Then you want to buy your mom and dad a car. All of a sudden, you're broke, right? So most of the time when people think that they're financially set in the world of sports, they're not. They're broke. And one of the things Jake talked about is during the off season, you have to build those relationships, build that network in order to build that coalition of people, right? Just like an entrepreneur, coalition of founders, a coalition of board members and advisors that can help you invest that capital, that of which you do have that remains, in something that's going to be of value to your future. And when I hear Jake talking about creating a platform whether it be for athletes, quarterbacks, or for people that are trying to do different things. You have to think that way. But ultimately, it's the people that are in this room that join behind him that help make that successful. That's what Cincinnati has always been great about, and I'm always so grateful to the city.
That's awesome. So resources like this, you would say, are very pivotal for the athletes to be able to join, be a part of, and learn from?
I mean, so it's the only thing.
Okay.
It's the most important piece. I'm trying to remember the story. I had the story in my head. I was trying to remember the story. This guy was talking about, okay, I remember the story. So this guy I talked to, takes me a second, my brain register, and he's an athlete. And one thing that's interesting about being an athlete, especially him, he's an elite athlete, and he's essentially, all right, here, I'll tell you who it is. So you know Fred from the Olympics, the gentleman that went to the greatest university in the world, University of Michigan, Fred. All right, so he won a bronze at the Olympics. So I've been mentoring him through a program at the University of Michigan, which is the greatest university in the world. Did I say that? Okay. But I talked to him, and in my talk with him, I basically said, look, you've been a gymnast your entire life. When you graduate from school, people are going to still see you as a gymnast. When most people get out of high school, when they get out of college, then they have a diversified path of which they want to go. If you graduate and you were in the School of Business, if you were a poli-sci major, maybe you're women's studies, then you decide to go to law school, you go to med school. There's so many just different alternative paths that you can take. What happens along those paths? You meet unique people, right? So if you're a doctor, you meet a hospital administrator, but as a hospital administrator, you also meet someone that might be in the business sector that's selling medical devices, right? So there's three different people, but in the world of sports, the only people that you're meeting are your other athletes, are your other teammates, right? So if you think about 10 years later, 6 years now, 4, 5, 10, whatever. So 15 years later, once he graduates from the league, the people that had graduated from college will be 15 years later in their career. Think about how many different directions that you've taken and the people and the relationships that you've built along the way that you can go back to and say, you know what, I'm not really good at finance. John, I remember when we were selling medical devices and you were my best friend, so I want you to be my CFO. You know, you can say, hey, Dustin, you're really good at sales because I remember, so, but if we go into the locker room and say, hey, Billy, you were really good at the 3 technique. Hey, oh, John, man, you're a great receiver, right? So 2 things have to happen. One, those that are off the field need to mentor those that are on the field to teach them new skills, right? And those that are coming off the field doing amazing things in the world need to be surrounded by people that want them to be just as successful as they are. Allow them to catch up the 15 years that they missed out on while being on the field, allowing you to celebrate, high five, clap, have a good time, hot dogs, hamburgers, pretzels, things like that, having a good time, winning championships, right? Okay, good. So that we can go somewhere next from there. And that's what's been so great for me with so many people that have been in the Cincinnati community is that I reach back out, I talk to, spend time, and they give me so much knowledge share. So me being on stage is not me. Me being on stage is actually you.
Right. It's all of it coming together and the product of what's created, and all of us. And I think that's a really great point that you're speaking to of coming out later into a career. I've seen it with a lot of my football friends who have been in the NFL for years, and they come out and they're looking like, what's next? I'm Johnny Football. Like, that is my entire identity, and how do I recreate that identity? How do I get into something else? And it starts years earlier, and I think that's the same with anything in the startup community. If you're branching out from being working at Procter & Gamble or working in one of these really large companies, it takes the networking, it takes getting out, it takes coming to events like this and meeting new people who are in similar interest zones as you, who want to be entrepreneurs. But part of that becomes even more than just a network. I know we're talking a lot about this networking side, and I think this could be a good thing for you to talk a little bit on, Jay, because you are currently a part of a team, a very, visible team that everybody's watching all the time. And coming to network events, building these relationships through time, what you end up finding or looking for is that ace team. You want an awesome team. There's no way to succeed in entrepreneurship. There are some guys who'll say, like, it was all me. But just know there's probably a team that was behind him that probably no longer works for him or her, and, it goes that way. But the truth is, like, the best companies are run by great teams who care about each other, work hard together. So being in that team, tell us a little bit about just, like, how you feel, like, the team side of it, and, you're looking at starting a platform. Are you building a team with that as well?
Yeah, so I got hooked up with something called Pro Athlete Community. It's run by a guy named Chip Pausick. I don't know if you've heard of it, but they do a good job. So we get tuition reimbursement every off season, and so
what?
We get tuition reimbursement every
From where?
off season from the NFL.
Oh.
And this qualifies. So it's a big. It's a big
what
networking
qualifies?
event.
Yeah.
The networking event.
It's
after 10 years.
Yeah.
It's after 10 years.
You get reimbursed for hanging out with other people?
Yes.
Through what program?
Through the NFL. NFL tuition reimbursement.
It's too late.
What?
It might be too late.
Serious?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I need to call somebody.
Yeah. So I got hooked up basically with some people through that, and I think the hardest part really, as a current player and making that transition to starting to do some stuff off the field is, I've never sat in a room where I'm, pretty much know the least about the subject matter. And so when I'm sitting in a room, especially as a quarterback, you usually know a lot of the football stuff, better than maybe, for the most part, a lot of your coaches and a lot of people you're talking to. You're used to interacting with media who want to know what you know. And so then all of a sudden you're sitting at a dinner table. Like last night, JB was nice enough to invite me to a dinner, and everyone's using.
Yeah, JB Crop.
Yeah.
Give him a round of applause. I know that guy a long time.
And so you're sitting around a dinner table, and there's some football fans there, but everybody starts using acronyms that you don't know. Talking about recurring revenue and some things. And I have a finance background, so I can kind of put it together. But it's just it's an uncomfortable situation for anybody. If I took someone from the startup world and said, "Hey, come hang out in the locker room for a day," you would feel very uncomfortable. And so it's a and that's the experience that it is. And I picked up a football when I was 8, and I've been doing it ever since. And so it's my one thing, the first thing that I did. And now that's my job at 28 years old, and so it's weird to step outside of that and try and figure out, okay, what does this look like once this is over?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
You've been playing football for 20 years. How many of you have been doing your job for 20 years? Right? And you think about the guy or the girl or the lady or the man gets off the assembly line after doing it for 20 years and how hard it is for them to identify what's their next pathway. Right? Just all I was doing was putting this window on this car for 20 years. Right? But one of the things that he said, sitting at the table with all the different terms, is he used not only his knowledge that he had from school and him as an individual, but then I'm sure that he was able to sort of take some of the tools that he got from the world of sports, apply that playbook, and start to write a new playbook. Right? And that, in my opinion, comes down to this level of curiosity that you must have. And I think that's one of the most critical pieces as a founder, as an entrepreneur. You have to be curious, right? Now, you have to have advisors and board members that don't allow you to be too curious, right? But how else are you going to solve the problems? Because they're just going to come up all the time, right? If you're at a Series Seed or Series A level, you're still trying to find market fit. And you're still asking a bunch of questions. I don't know, how come you don't like my bar of soap? How come you're not going to wear my helmet? How come I'm not, paying attention to my app? You got to ask people. You got to talk to people. You have to be as curious as possible, and you have to start building your playbook, your independent playbook for that business of what you have. And that's the same thing that he's doing, sitting at the table, listening to people with their terminology.
Yeah, and I think it's a big part of recreating yourself You know, continuing to recreate yourself throughout life. Like, I got connected with somebody that worked with Tom Brady a lot, and they said one of the biggest things he did is in year 15 with a ton of success, he's doubling down, trying to recreate himself, trying to always find that edge. And I think that applies to startups.
Oh yeah, he went to Michigan. That's right.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, sorry.
My alma mater did just beat Michigan.
Ooh, yeah.
You guys got us in the Natty. You guys won in the Natty, but we did win most recently.
That's fine. That's fine.
There's a thing called a forward pass, and Michigan is really struggling with. I'm building a course out.
I'm at the realist.
We're going to go up to Michigan, and they're going to be early adopters. Can you make the connection?
Well done.
Can you make an intro?
I can take that.
All right. We'll let them work this out later. Let me tell you, this is going to go on for a little bit. But, I think you all are making some great points about this networking and continuing to grow in the skills. I'll tell you, it's intimidating for a lot of people. You don't have
To do what?
Everyone in here is not type A, right? They're not all ready
It's
to go
intimidating to be an
jump
entrepreneur?
into networking. No, I don't think it's needed. But I think being in the place is important. I think lots of times we think like, in order to go network and be a part of this and make these friends and build this network of people, you have to be outgoing and ready to go talk to people. And for a lot of people, it might create some anxiety. Get it? But the truth is, if you're just in the room, if you are just around it, you'll be brought in, you'll learn, you'll see how maybe others are doing it and aspire to do those things. Not everybody's gonna be up here, Dahani Jones, okay? Like Mr. Charisma, like just like laying it down up here. But it takes, I think for a lot of people, like you just have to continuously work on that. Confidence is everything, but lots of times you have to build into that and learn. And the more you learn about something, you brush up on knowledge, the more comfortable you are. I'm sure that's kind of what you're talking about there, right?
Yeah, I think there's an aspect of making that step outside the locker room. You think everybody just knows everything that's going on. And then you start talking to enough people, and at first you're like, man, this girl is just dialed on everything. And then you realize there's a very, very small percentage that actually know what's going on. And it's kind of a freeing thing. Like, okay, it's okay that I don't know everything that's going on, and the percentage of people that don't is actually much higher than other people let on.
Wait till you're a parent. All right, you think you know what's going on, like you don't know.
But I have to say that people will throw out that term imposter syndrome. People throw out that term fake it till you make it. Either you're gonna make it or you're not. Either you're gonna have the attitude of winning or you're not. Either you're gonna be the person or you're gonna find the person. Period. Otherwise, don't do it. The only reason you're going to be an entrepreneur, the only reason you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur, I mean, I would say there's a high percentage of luck that has to be involved and timing that has to be involved. Abby, what's the word?
Yesteryear.
Oh, I feel like I'm a little bit wistful for yesteryear. Because I'm just remembering sort of the way that I had to change and evolve, like Jake's talking about. And if you're not burning the boats, everybody knows that term, right? If you're not out in front, if you're not leading the charge, then you might as well just jump on board with somebody else that's willing to take that risk. Otherwise, there's no point. There's a statistic out there. I don't know the exact statistic, but if you're the first 20 or 30 founders, if you're the first 20 or 30 hires at a company like Facebook back in the day, the likelihood of you making that much more money than anybody that's starting their business is that much higher, right? You become, you make a couple $100 million if you keep your money in the stock, right? So why do it? Just jump on board with someone else with a better idea if you're not going to lead the way, if you're not going to go into the room, shake hands, say hello to people. These are just like common practices as human beings, at least as I know it. Now, I know that not everybody has that type of personality, but then find your role, right? Not everybody's going to be the quarterback and have to get up in front of 75,000 people, run 10 people and call the play and make the pass, drop it on a dime. And if he doesn't, he gets booed or he gets cut and he gets fired. drop it on a dime from 50 yards away to the corner on the outside to make a perfect catch. You know how hard that is? That's what you have to do as an entrepreneur. You have to make that perfect pass. If you don't, well, you're fired. And that's okay for some people, but not for those that are on stage, and hopefully not for you that are sitting in the room.
I agree with that.
I think part is just finding yourself anyway, just getting in the arena. And for me, I spent a lot of years on sidelines. I'm currently on a sideline, and so you're just trying to find any possible way to, find yourself in the arena with the pressure on, whether for me that's, recreating that at practice and trying to find a way to improve. And so I think the more ways you can find yourself in that arena, testing yourself with pressure, that's where I've always kind of found the most growth for myself, and and finding some comfort in that, and knowing that that risk, could pay off, it could not, but just figuring out, where do you go from that risk? How do you deal with, mentally? How do you deal with the success or the failure of that risk, and continuing to progress in your life?
I think it's a great point. And in wrapping up kind of the comments you all just made, it's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of hard work to be an entrepreneur, to be successful at any one thing. And, a lot of these founders, they're like, oh, this story, they got lucky a little bit. But I can tell you there was a lot of endless nights of pressure, anxiety. Am I going to be able to make payroll? That happens in the entrepreneurial world. No one's alone in that. I think that is the general story. But the more you work for wisdom in your field, to network and build your team to be the best team it can be, it's how success happens. The hard work aspect of it, not just, they always talk about work smarter, not harder. Well, work smarter while working harder, and you can get ahead and really make some moves. So I think that applies all the way across the board, from being a Bengal quarterback to an entrepreneur to being an investor, and trying to be the best in helping the companies that you're investing in succeed. So appreciate the time, appreciate these guys. Give them a big round for the time up here.
Thank you guys so much for all of your insight. Can we give them one more big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? And we actually have one more speaker that is going to come to the stage right now that is part of this panel. It's the sponsor for the panel, so show them even more love if you can, our friends from Thompson & Hein right now.
Thank you so much. Give it up one more time for the awesome panel. I thought it was great perspective. I am around investors and startups all day long, so it's great to get kind of a different perspective that you don't get on a normal day. So, as was introduced, my name is Sean Ganley. I'm a partner in Thompson & Hein's New Ventures Group, and I'm thrilled to be here representing the firm, and even more excited to be a part of this great panel that just happened. The event is such a vital part of our community here in Cincinnati, driving innovation, entrepreneurship, and collaboration. It brings together creative minds and passionate entrepreneurs, and we're proud to play a role in supporting that vision in all of Ohio, but especially here in the Cincinnati ecosystem. At Thompson & Hein, our New Ventures practice is specifically designed to guide startups and emerging businesses through their most pivotal moments. We understand the unique challenges that founders and early-stage companies face, from navigating the complexities of funding to managing growth in a dynamic market. Our goal is to be more than just a legal partner. We're here to be your strategic partner throughout your life cycle, working hand in hand to lay the foundation for long-term success. Through our experience with startups, venture capital, and other entities in the ecosystem, we've witnessed firsthand how important the right legal counsel can be for a growing company. So thank you for allowing Thompson & Hein to be a part of this event, and we look forward to connecting with many of you throughout the next few days, and let's continue to make Cincinnati a hub for entrepreneurship and innovation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Thank you all for joining us for the morning session here. Don't go anywhere, though. We have so much more program for you throughout the day and also throughout the week. Be sure to check out the Hoover app and your program guide for discounts at local OTR lunch spots. And don't forget, as always, throughout the entire week to continue to have your badge with you so people can easily identify you, and it'll help with networking opportunities as well. So we're going to take a quick break for the morning session. We will see you all back here this afternoon.